FIFA's in. I'm not talking about the Uruguayan president's comments about FIFA bosses. He called them sons of bitches after Luis Suarez was kicked out of the tournament for biting an Italian player, but about Qatar. It's proved a controversial choice to host the 2022 World Cup, and the world awaits the findings of FIFA's investigation into allegations of corruption. Our counterparts at Radio Télévision Suisse have been carrying out a probe of their own into the scandal. Now here are some of their findings.
It's a question that people have been increasingly asking. How did FIFA come to this decision?
The winner to organize the 2022 FIFA World Cup is Qatar.
The answer might lie in that very same auditorium in 2010. Just a few feet away from the jubilant Qataris was sitting Mohammed bin Hammam, a powerful man in the world of football and president of the Asian Football Confederation. An investigative report by the Sunday Times says he distributed $5 million in bribes to FIFA members to support the Qatar bid. They're calling it Qatargate. Is that fair?
Well, if it is true there are links between bin Hammam and the Qatar bid committee, if he acted on behalf of the bid committee, then there is a very big problem, and that could really shake FIFA to its foundations.
Few people were better placed to witness things than Mark Pieth. The Swiss national was entrusted with putting FIFA's operations in order. Until December last year, he presided over the governing commission put in place by FIFA itself. We showed him documents we had obtained, email exchanges between bin Hammam's office and African Football Federation leaders. One of them is correspondence with Kalusha Bwalya, president of the Zambian Football Association. In October 2009, Bwalya wrote to bin Hammam, "Please, Mr. President, if you could assist me with about $50,000 for my football association and personal expenditures." He indicates where the money should be transferred to his own personal account. 5 weeks later, there's a reply from bin Hammam's secretary. "Mr. bin Hammam conveys his best regards to you. Please find attached copy of bank receipt for transfer of $50,000 to your account." Other documents show the president of the Togolese Football Federation received $22,400 from bin Hammam to make the pilgrimage to Mecca. There is also this invitation from bin Hammam to 39 African football administrators for a weekend in Malaysia. They are invited along with their wives, all expenses paid, and as a bonus, each receives $5,000 spending money.
That looks to me the sort of attitude and way of doing things that existed in this organization before 2011.
Do you think it has changed since?
I cannot guarantee we have really changed, but we have made great efforts. We now have investigators and judges to take care of that, and of course, there will be penalties.
But not everyone shares this optimism. In Annapolis, Maryland, in the United States, we meet another member of the same governing commission. Alexandra Rege sat alongside Mark Pieth in the drive to make FIFA more transparent, but she quit when she found out that her work was only cosmetic.
Well, it became pretty clear to me about halfway through the time that I spent there that the commitment to real fundamental change at FIFA was not as sincere as I had hoped. When we were first asked to do this, it was a very exciting time because we thought we could bring international best practices to FIFA. We thought that would be welcome. We thought, in fact, that that was the purpose. But over time, we were being tamped down, and a lot of the recommendations were being rejected, either outright or just the messaging was that perhaps we were trying to do too much too quickly. I didn't want to be a part of something that wasn't going to be thorough and meaningful.
Alexandra Rege doesn't have much faith in FIFA's capacity to reform from within. She says it's up to Swiss authorities to act. FIFA's headquarters are in Zurich, and she says Switzerland has the responsibility to ensure this institution worth more than €1 billion is run properly.
There are really only two options. If FIFA's not going to improve its governance internally, then the only two pressure points are the Swiss government and the corporate sponsors. And I don't know which will be more powerful, and I don't know which will act first, but I'd love to see the Swiss government do that.
For the moment, it is the sponsors who are making all the moves. Switzerland has remained silent, but companies such as Hyundai, Sony and Budweiser have expressed their concern and their wish to see a cleaner and more transparent FIFA.
For more on this, I'm joined now from Germany by James Dorsey, a journalist and academic based in Singapore. Hello, thank you very much for your time. Now, our report ends with sponsors saying they want a more transparent FIFA. Just how corrupt, in your view, is football's governing body?
I don't think there's any question about the degree of corruption within the governing body. I think there is one issue that one has to separate, and that is what the Sunday Times has done. It has documented a lot of things that we already knew, some things that we did not know. What it has not documented clearly is whether or not the integrity of the bid by Qatar is in question. You have to keep in mind that, for example, all of those payments to African soccer officials were the soccer officials who had no right to vote for or against the awarding of a World Cup. It is only members of the FIFA Executive Committee who can do so, and they are not bound or cannot be instructed by the heads of football associations in Africa. The only thing that the statutes of the Confederation of African Football says is that they have a vote in line with African solidarity, whatever that may be.
Since you mentioned African football, we've got these match-fixing allegations concerning Cameroon. Just how damaging do you think that's going to be to African football?
I think it's damaging to African football as it is damaging to all football, wherever in the world it is. And match-fixing is not something that is exclusively African. On the contrary, in fact, it is something that is a global problem.
Now, getting back to Qatar and all the controversy surrounding the fact that it's due to host the World Cup in 2022, it's not just controversial because of the corruption allegations, is it? There are also other issues such as labour rights and the weather, the climate.
There are several issues. I think there's controversy around the bid itself. One, because of the allegations of corruption, and two, because Qatar spent a multiple on its bid in comparison to those of its competitors, the United States, Japan, Korea, Australia. And there are good reasons why Qatar did that. There are also the issues of climate, but FIFA was aware of that and voted in favor of that, despite having been cautioned by a technical report. And the jury is still out on whether or not Qatar has the technology to cool stadia so that it, in fact, compensates for what are extreme summer temperatures. And finally, there is the labor issue. And there, I think, for the first time, you have the possibility that a World Cup will actually have a legacy, at least a legacy in terms of affecting social change. There's no doubt in my mind that there will be improvement of the labor conditions, the housing, and as well as the working conditions of foreign labor in Qatar. It will take time. It's a process, but it will happen. And if it happens, that is a process that's going to affect the region, and with other words, other Gulf states, not just Qatar.
So do you think then that Qatar will end up hosting the World Cup, even if FIFA's investigation ends up finding those allegations are true?
I think at this point, the odds are that the investigation by Michael Garcia, the investigator, whose report will come out in the next several weeks, is going to be one in which he does not have a smoking gun. Having said that, Qatar is the closest it has been since the awarding in 2010 to a revote within the FIFA Executive Committee. I would not rule out a revote, but if I were to place my bets, I would bet that they probably are going to keep the World Cup.
OK, thank you very much, James Dorsey, for joining us there. That's it for Focus. And that's it for our 2-hour live show. I'll be back, though, in a few minutes with a full news roundup for you. Do stay tuned.